Hey, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here, May 21, 2020, with a SARS-CoV-2 science update. So, about a decade ago, Bill Gates declared it the decade of the vaccine. I want you to ask yourself, have we made any phenomenal vaccine progress in that last decade? And maybe the next and most important question, will this be progress? So let's look at some data. Right now, what they're suggesting, this was May 2020, right? They want to expose healthy volunteers to COVID-19 to see if the vaccine works. So they take a bunch of healthy people, give some a placebo, give some the vaccine, and they'll see how people do. Now, here's an interesting thing. The disease is mild in most people, and many people have no symptoms at all. So how are you going to know if you take healthy people and give them COVID, if they wouldn't get any symptoms anyways, if this vaccine had any level of effectiveness? Seems pretty flawed. But I want to encourage people that really want to know, look up this YouTube video. Top CDC official will just get rid of all whites in the United States who refuse vaccines. So here's what she said: educated whites refuse vaccines. Now, why in the world would that be the case? Well, maybe other cultures, other races should consider refusing vaccines as well. So I want to say something about this. This was an article that was published in 2014, and here's what it said. There was a statistically significant increase in autism among African American males who got MMR. Now, how does science deal with data they don't want out? They cause a retraction of the article. So this article was retracted, even though reading it, looking at the data, it seemed the science was indisputable. Look that up. The data's out. So maybe we should be looking at vaccines. So this is cdc.gov, and you have to do a little digging to actually find what's in the vaccine. So mercury is a known brain toxin. Thimerosal is mercury, and then they have a footnote and they say, oh, by the way, this isn't the type of mercury that damages the brain. Really? Aluminum. Aluminum is known to be neurotoxic, but hey, not in the amount that we give it. Formaldehyde is in the vaccine. So I'm going to encourage you, do you want to inject a child whose immune system is not yet developed, or even an adult who has, with mercury, aluminum, and formaldehyde? I want to encourage you to look at the incidence of chronic disease since they started doing this. Now they also have, this is an MMR packet, human diploid cell WI38. You can look that up. Here's what it says. This is a human cell line composed of fibroblasts that were harvested from a 3-month gestated, aborted female human fetus. So they abort human fetuses, get their tissue, and then they use that to create something that they inject into other humans. I don't know. I'm an educated white. I guess that puts me in the demographic of people, that might think about refusing a vaccine. I want to know why these things are in there and where's the evidence that this vaccine actually works. And I promise you, injecting healthy people who wouldn't get the disease anyways and then exposing them, that's really not good science. Death rate from infectious disease, United States, from the CDC, we see a very smooth decline in death rate from infectious disease, 80% decline before penicillin, 91.25% decline before widespread vaccines, and no decline since. So are vaccines the savior of the world? Not really sure of that. Now, we have calculated death rates from infectious disease since 1950. I'm sorry, all death rates since 1950. Now, you look in the US, we had a spike with the 1918 pandemic. That was a real pandemic. No real pandemic in my lifetime, or maybe anybody else's lifetime. Look at US, no spike in death rate from infectious disease. Why? There were no pandemics. What about the world? Global decline in death rate leading up to 2020. That means there was nothing major that was killing people. Maybe this year will change it, not the coronavirus, but they're actually predicting suicides, homicides, and starvation from the policies. Here's our world population, worldometer.info. Here's the number of days that have passed. Here is the calculated death rate from last year, and believe it or not, we're 163,000 deaths below projection. Below projection. We have a year that is not a problem. There's a Dr. Zach Bush that says in terms of respiratory disease, this COVID-19 is really a non-issue on the history of scale in terms of infection. In terms of policy, possibly the biggest mistake in the history of humanity. Let's look at the US. We can look at live stats, US. Here's the number of people that are in our population. Here's the number of deaths this year. There's the calculated death rate. US is down 87,000 deaths this year. So people are not dropping like flies, but the data is being tweaked. This is a senator. This is a medical doctor. You can catch him in the article. You can look at him in the CDC. He said, look, if someone's hit by a bus, we can put them down as a COVID death. If they had 2 collapsed lungs and, whether or not we found COVID or not in it, we could call it a COVID death. Someone in stage 4 cancer in hospice, if they happen to be exposed to COVID, the final days of life, we can give that as a COVID death. That is profoundly misleading. What about Italy, where everybody was dropping like flies from COVID? Oxford reviewed the data. 88% of the people who were said to have died from COVID did not. It was just something that happened to be in their system at time of death. Were they stage 4 cancer, hit by a bus? It doesn't matter. 88% of the time, they listed it as just plain dead wrong. And by the way, 26% of the people were over the age of 90. So I like this quote from Og Mandino. He talks about love, and he says, I will greet this day with love in my heart, for love is the greatest secret of success in all ventures. He says, muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men. And he says, until I master that art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. And he talks about loving the sun and the earth and the moon and everybody on it. And I really, really love this line. He says, and most of all, I will love myself. For when I do, I will zealously inspect all things that I allow to enter my mind, my body, my soul, and my heart. And I want to ask you a question. If you're zealously inspecting, are you injecting known neurotoxins into the body? Are you injecting fetal aborted tissue into the body? You only can make that call. People have been asking about the Truth Seekers Academy. It's coming. Go to drbobrakowski.com. More information, landing page coming soon. I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.